my grandmother, 我的阿嬷, she thought that my mom was a Russian spy.
Wow.
Yeah, because you don't see people blonde hair and blue eyes.
True.
I see parts of my dad here, parts of my mom here, parts of my dad here, parts of my mom here. My mom, my dad.
All right.
It's everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
I am terrible at pinging. Every time we have to record the news and we have like the English names and they're in pinging. Yeah, Jeff knows. It's a struggle. It's a struggle. I can't tell the difference between like Chan or Chun or Shan or how you came from America to Taiwan.
I took a plane.
Okay. I feel like the Matrix, you know how like when they want to learn a skill, they just insert the disc and then they like, now you know how to fight.
That's basically us.
We had English and Mandarin just like, boop, boop, and we learned it. And welcome back to FUNDAY Chat. This is our second part with Christina.
Hi, I'm Christina.
So Christina, for those who maybe are not familiar with you, can you tell us who you are again?
I am Christina. I'm a YouTuber in Taiwan. My mom's American, dad is Taiwanese, and I'm pretty much born and raised here. I did spend 10 years of my life in USA, though.
Yes, I was going to ask.
That's where the accent comes from.
Right. Can you give us a little bit of a timeline? So you're mixed.
Yes, I am mixed.
Just like me.
Yes, just like you.
We bonded over that.
Yes.
Because we're half-half.
Exactly.
One of us, or together we make one Taiwanese.
Yes, and the other together makes an African-American child, right?
Okay, so can you give us a bit of a timeline of where were you born and then how did you end up here?
I was born in Taiwan and I went to the States when I was 3 months old.
Oh, 3 months?
Yeah.
How old? And you have a younger brother?
Yes.
So he wasn't born yet.
In the States.
Oh.
Because you see, my mom knew that Taiwan had mandatory military. And so she thought if he's born in the States, then he doesn't have to do that.
Oh.
But that was all misinformation.
Yeah,
he
that's
still
not right.
has to do that because he has Taiwan citizenship. Yeah,
exactly.
So, okay, I went to the States when I was 3 months old. And then I grew up there until I was in 4th grade. And then I came back when I was in 5th grade.
Well, what was the reason for you guys coming back?
The reason is, well, we were in a really nice neighborhood. So I live in Massachusetts. For people who don't know that, the capital is Boston. We have
But
Red
you don't
Sox.
have a Boston accent.
Well, it's been washed away.
Okay.
Yeah. And they say like the New Yorker accent and the Bostonian accent is like one of the most hated accents in the world. Yeah,
I quite enjoy it.
I saw it on a meme.
I quite enjoy it, yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's funny how they say coffee and
Yeah, coffee.
give me the...
I think if I went back and I stayed there for like a year,
you can pick
probably,
it up?
Yeah.
Wow. You
Hand
don't have
me that
any.
box over there.
It is very strong. It's very strong accent.
Yeah, it is
like
strong.
You got to be like very... You sound like you're like, you know, telling me what to do. Like you're like the boss.
It's quite demanding.
Yeah.
And the neighborhood was great. Like, it's a good area to send your kids to school.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was at one point my parents were just like, these kids need to learn Chinese, like Mandarin Chinese, because it's going away.
Yeah.
Like, my brother couldn't speak at all. He could understand.
Wow.
I spoke a little bit because when I was younger, I grew up some part of my time with my godmother, who is like a 客家人, Hakka.
Oh, okay. I'm curious because from my perspective and my family, basically, a lot of people usually, you know, find it surprising that, of course, foreigner faces, why do you speak so well, like with Mandarin, right? And I always felt
get that question every day.
all the time, yeah. The thing was weird for me was that I'm like, I know that you see foreigner face, and so you just expect me to speak English and speak it well. But because I spent my childhood in Taiwan, so technically, my Mandarin should be better than my English, right? And so when I was growing up here, it's just that it was hard to make that connection. I look like a foreigner, but technically I'm more Taiwanese because I was growing up here, going to public school with my Asian family, Asian friends, Asian environment.
Yeah.
So it's funny because I think people just see the outside and they just assume, of course, foreigner.
Yeah, your English must be good.
Yeah, your English must be good. And
Right,
my English only got better once I went
Left.
back to South Africa. Yeah, because then I was in an English environment. But I think something I appreciate so much from my parents is that my dad only spoke to me in Mandarin. My mom only spoke to me in English.
Oh.
And that helped me, you know,
Yeah.
form the associations. And that's how I grew up speaking both pretty decent. Now, of course, living in the Western country and, you know, like in Asia, that helped so much more to solidify both languages. But what was it like for you? Your mom spoke to you all in English, your dad in Mandarin? Was it the same?
Pretty much. It was a lot like that.
Yeah.
But being in the States, like, I remember the older I got, the more I refused to speak.
Mandarin.
Because it would cause a lot of attention, and I didn't want that. I didn't want to be the center
see.
of attention because
'Cause
that
you were
makes you
more of an
different.
I back
And
then.
yeah, I was very shy back then. And my parents, because they performed and they sang.
Yeah.
And so we had like this like culture day.
Okay.
And that's when I was like, no, you know,
not
don't
this
look at
day
me.
again.
Like, they want me to go on stage and sing with them, which I know how to, but I just didn't want to be seen as, so what's it like back in Thailand? Ha ha ha. You know?
Yeah,
They
it's
'cause
funny
kids
that-
don't know this
Right.
stuff, and they're kids.
Yeah,
How do
yeah,
you
yeah.
expect them to know?
It is funny that back in the day, I feel like people constantly mix up Taiwan and Thailand.
Yeah.
Every time, like even some of my family members from South Africa, like we'd be like, yeah, we're from Taiwan. They're like, yeah, how's Thailand? And like, it's so weird how like, it makes sense, right? Thai. But I think after COVID or like, you know, like now, you know, this tension between us
Yeah.
and
Because of the tension, a lot of people pay more attention. But honestly,
Yes.
when I was younger, I wouldn't say I'm from like Taiwan. I'm Taiwanese. None of this stuff was a thing back.
Really?
Like, I was too young to know
Yeah,
any of this,
that's
you know?
true.
And I'm only given the information that I get from adults.
yeah.
So what I say is I'm half Chinese.
Okay.
But it didn't mean anything, you know?
Yeah.
Because this
You're
is
just
what I'm
saying
being
Chinese,
told.
like I'm Asian.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
Chinese. My dad, like, I speak Chinese.
Yeah.
Like, this is the thing. But
Right.
now, because of a lot of 政治正确,
Political stuff.
and
yeah,
you have to
PC.
be correct about things.
Yep.
So this is how we say it now, which I respect, which
Yeah.
is fine. I don't have any opinion about this, but
Right.
it's just I'm sharing how I grew up saying this,
Yeah.
and at that time, there was not a big conflict with this stuff.
Right.
But it got to a point where there was a conflict, so
Mm-hmm.
I had to start to switch over the way I use these words.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't mean like I'm supporting what,
Yeah.
which gives people a lot of misunderstanding. It's
Mm-hmm.
like people used to call China Red China back in the day, you know? And
Yeah.
it's not because they have like a wrong concept. It's because this is what the society calls it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Names change and meanings
Yeah.
change over time. Yeah.
Yeah, like even now in the States, like something about USA is like there's so many little sensitive words. You know,
Yeah.
like for
Yeah,
example,
America.
this might be a bad example because I know nowadays this word has kind of been canceled. But like when we were growing up, like kids in the school would say, yeah, you are a retard. I can't even say it now, you know?
Yeah.
Because I know it's a bad thing. But when we're kids,
Yeah.
it's, you're
You just, yeah.
you know, a lot
It's
of
an
things
R-rated
change.
word
Like,
now.
so I think also being half, we need to learn both sides of these things.
Yeah,
you know?
for sure.
You need to know like what's going on the U.S. side of the situation and what's actually happening, and then you need to find yourself in between like both of these worlds that are
Yeah.
completely different from each other.
Right. So
Yeah.
that's what I want to get into. But did we finish how you came from America to Taiwan?
I took a plane.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
And that was in grade 5.
Yeah, grade 5.
Okay.
And then I stayed all the way, back to that. I stayed all the way until I graduated high school. And then I went back to the States for a year. Didn't work out because college was a mess. I thought USA would have been the place to go because everyone told me that. Oh, USA has better schools, better education.
That's where I went
you
to.
should go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I went, okay, I just listened to everybody and I go there and I realized this is not for me.
Okay.
It's way too expensive.
Very.
And I didn't understand a thing. I'm not an international student, but I am an international student.
Right.
It was
The
so
identity.
complicated. So I'm just like, I don't want to waste time finding myself and burning money. So I came back to Taiwan and finished my college, and then I went back again. So it's really a mix
of back and forth. And
but
like kind of even, like 50-50.
I would say so, but my primary education would be here.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do think back to how come I don't understand like deep Chinese, deep Mandarin, like textbook stuff.
Yeah.
It's because at the same time I was struggling to learn the language.
Yes.
So I don't just like pop here and be like, okay, open a book and just understand everything that's happening. Like I need to learn, what does this word say? How do I write it? I need to learn bopoma from zero.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you do know bopoma?
I do, but I stopped using it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You do pinging?
I do pinging because it's helped with my pronunciation.
Okay.
Yeah.
I am terrible at pinging. Like
what?
Our videographers
you used
here would know. Yeah, I know bopoma. Every time we have to record the news and we have like the English names and they're in pinging.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jeff knows. It's a struggle. It's a struggle. I can't tell the difference between like Chan or Chun or Shan or Ching or like it all looks the same to me.
You know, I self-taught myself pinyin.
But
because it's so easy. The only hard parts is like when you get to yu, foreigners can't, like Westerners can't pronounce.
But what is it? How do you spell yu?
LV.
LV?
Yeah. Like 绿色 is LVSE.
Lü. LV.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense because you can't.
Yeah, the sound.
It's like Gary.
It's weird because I think for me, I make the association with bopoma. And so I know the words and how it's pronounced. And when I see pinging, I'm just like, I feel like I go into a foreigner's mindset. And I'm like, 柯文哲. But like, I know it's 柯文哲, right?
Yeah.
But it's like with the spelling of
that's
pinging.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Because your childhood was here.
Yes.
But my childhood was there.
Yeah. So we started our bases you're more westernized. I was more Asian.
Yeah.
But with that, what would you say? Like, do you feel like you identify with the Western side of your thing more or the Asian side?
This is a very hard question.
It is a trick question.
Can I identify myself as half? But that's the thing. If you identify yourself as half, there are probably a lot of halves.
Yeah.
But every single one is different.
That's true.
If you identify I'm Japanese,
yeah,
then I have my culture,
yes,
my language, the things, customs that
lifestyle,
I follow.
Yeah, traditions.
But if you identify as half, it doesn't make sense because everyone's different.
Yeah, yeah.
It goes back to like your family education, where you grew up, where you spent most of your time.
Absolutely.
That's all going to be different.
Yeah.
I would say I do identify myself more as Taiwanese because I understand more of the customs here.
Okay.
But at the same time, it's hard for me to say that because
you're not fully
because I'm not
immersed in it.
fully.
Yeah. Now, so would you say it's because probably I think the formative years of like your young adult, you know, like from let's say early 20s, was spent here? Do you think that had something to play with like you feeling more Taiwanese?
Because I didn't go to normal public schools as well.
You didn't?
I went to art school.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, and then like, let's say elementary, I was basically in the States.
Yeah.
And then middle school, I had those 3 years in like normal public school.
Yeah.
That's probably where I got most of the Taiwanese culture, school culture.
Yeah.
And then after that, I went to performing school, which is like a totally different world.
Yeah.
It was not until I went to college to learn that society again.
Yes.
Because college, you get the high school kids coming in, you know?
People,
so you get like
locals.
the cliques and that type of stuff. Yeah, so I think when I go to the States, they see me as Taiwanese.
They do?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, because I say I'm Taiwanese.
Okay.
You know, They just accept it.
If they look at you,
they don't question you. Yeah, they might question like,
you don't look completely
like
Asian.
I would never guess that.
Yeah. Okay.
But they would just, they accept your answer. You tell them once. But over here, it's like,
yeah.
You?
Yeah.
你是台湾人，可是
no.
不像哎。
对啊，怎么可能是台湾人？
你是不是
Yeah.
有混血？混哪里？ Okay. Yeah, it's hard to hide this.
Yes, of course. I would say I think you have more Western feature. What did you say?
It's hard. It's hard for me to say that as well because everyone has a different idea of it. When I look at myself in the mirror,
yeah, what do you think?
I think.
What do you think you are?
I see parts of my dad here, parts of my mom here, parts of my dad here, parts of my mom here, my mom, my dad.
All right.
It's everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what do you feel like you are? Or do you feel like you're comfortable like having this kind of like mix?
I don't really go out saying like 我是混血儿. It doesn't make sense for people. I feel like it's hard to understand like 混血儿. Then you have to explain
the background.
Both of your backgrounds and then it's like I don't know you. Why am I going to spend so much time talking to someone I don't know about this? Like it happens every day basically.
You know what's funny though? I think because our culture over time it's changing obviously. So we are of the, let's say, the earlier phase of, mixed kids. I mean, today in day and age, if you go to a park, you'll find tons of mixed kids, right? So I see that there are more of us coming up.
There are more of us.
The next couple generations, this will be a norm, right? Like we might even become a race thing where it's just, classified as mixed. But I think I've always... being from more of an earlier, for us, like the earlier generation, it is something that's, when you're different, you stand out.
You stand out, yeah.
So I think in Taiwan, especially back in the day,
you will stand out.
So easy to stand out.
Were you the only foreigner in your school?
The public school I went to, you know what, now that I think about it, I remember there was one other friend that was also a mix, but outside of that, for the most part, yeah, I think I was. But the funny thing is when you're young, I don't know your experience. We don't think about our identity. I'm just like, in my mind, I went to the public school. I hung out with friends that I thought was cool.
I don't think other kids see it too.
Yeah, and kids, well, I will say kids can be mean.
Yes.
And we are when we're young. We don't
say anything off the top of your mind.
Anything we want. And so when I was younger, I would be, when you get into like these arguments, I would be called黑人牙膏.
Oh.
Like that was one of my childhood traumas, right? But like, I think I don't perceive my skin as being an issue because like, I don't think I was brought up that way to be like noticed that you're darker than everybody else. No, that wasn't an issue. So anytime they would say, hey,黑人牙膏, I would just chang them back.
Yeah.
I would just be like, and you're blah, 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 right?
Yeah,
The race situation was, it's something that I think obviously every society will, as we globalize and more people are getting to know each other and different cultures, we are learning to deal with that.
Yeah.
But now for you, like I know it was, it might seem like a negative thing, but do you enjoy being like a mixed race person? Do you feel like there's
love and hate in this relationship that I have with myself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell us about that journey. Like,
I think it was probably around high school where I started to get that a lot. Yeah. Like in high school, we were learning a lot of Broadway things.
Yeah.
And I naturally had a better accent than everyone else.
Right.
We were learning these English songs and I had no trouble singing them. Yeah. And then I'm thinking like, but I had to have a language coach, Well, I don't need a language coach to like teach me the pronunciations and stuff. And so like, I think it was around that time when I started to question my identity a little bit more.
Right.
Yeah. In middle school, I had a 绰号. I was called Yang Niu.
Oh.
Yeah. They just called me that. And I had no idea what it means.
I'm Yang Niu.
I'm like, okay, Yang Niu, just call me that,
Wow.
And then like the older I get, like, oh my God, you call me that?
Yeah.
But you're young. I was like 12. I'm not supposed to know what that means.
Yeah.
And I went back to the States after high school to kind of like search out myself. And then I realized I'm not American.
Yeah.
Like, everyone in Taiwan sees me as American on the first time you lay your eyes on me.
Yeah.
Oh, 你中文讲真好, you know?
Yeah.
And so I did actually go back to the States to find myself.
Right.
And I realized I'm not, because
American,
this is like two different cultures. Now with social media, the good thing is like we kind of connect in that way.
Yes.
So a lot of memes and things are either translated or like passed around. Like we can, this is like becoming a global language, which is really cool. And I think that's going to be the major thing that brings us all together.
Yeah.
But like back in the day when we didn't have that type of social media, back in the day, I'm not that old.
We're not that old.
We're not that old. I'm not even 30 yet. But
hey, even if you're 30, you're fine.
I know.
Okay, 30-year-olds are still young.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
They are. Yes.
I'm not sensitive about my age anyway.
No, I think I'll be good when I'm 30.
Yeah.
I'll probably be, I don't know. I'm not there yet, so.
You got time.
But when I realized I'm not American, I decided to come back here. And I think I was very lucky the first year that my scores were really bad. I had like no academic, like, so I went to like the school in the mountains.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was actually Danjiang Dashi.
Oh.
That was my first year.
Wow.
And I met a lot of international students.
Okay.
And I think that's probably one of the best years I've ever had.
Wow.
Because I applied as a Taiwanese student,
right?
But I hung out like
with all the
international students. The teachers taught in English. It was a full English taught school in the mountains.
So it felt like the perfect mix.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it was like, wow, there's everything. And I'm in Taiwan, you know?
Yeah. Home.
And then it felt too good that I was like, there's no challenge here. I need to leave.
This is not challenging
enough.
Yeah.
So I transferred out. But yeah, I think that was one of the years where I embraced myself fully because it was okay to be half. It's okay to speak both languages.
Yeah.
And there's people who can understand you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's ultimately what we're looking for, right? Like to be accepted. And I think when we were younger, it's hard because you feel like you're part of the culture wherever you are. Like for me, South Africa or Taiwan, you America or Taiwan. But it's like people will always see you differently in some sense, not even in what they say, but just maybe what, the way they treat you. And I think it sometimes just takes, just over time, when you're young, it's hard to make sense out of all of it. And so I feel like every young person is trying to find who they are.
Yeah.
So that's already something we all go through.
Yeah.
But then you add identity politics or like, the cultural differences, then you're like, okay, wait a second. Where do I even belong?
Yeah,
right. And
there's a lot.
And so what I personally have went through is when I was younger, it was a struggle. But I will say, similar to you, over time, I feel like I found my identity. And then it was more of this, like, this is a terrible reference, but it was like a Hannah Montana, right?
Hannah Montana.
Like, I get the best of both worlds.
You do get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I feel like because I can connect to this culture that even though I don't look like it, right? Like for Taiwan, but I know the people, I know certain the cultural references, I know the language, and knowing the language well, especially like we all have accents, right? And actually we can talk about the accents a little bit. We all have accents, but like I feel like ours compared to your regular foreigners is still more local. So people usually are more surprised by that. Because people will say like, okay, you look foreigner, but as soon as I'm like, 没有，我是台湾人, they're like, oh, wait, you sound even Taiwanese. So I'm like, so that's where my street creds are at. But I think I've come to just appreciate that, like, instead of like only being locked into one, right? Now I have two worlds, and it's so different. Right? It's not, because obviously you have different mix, like you have Asian mix as well.
Yeah.
But like being from two different cultures, like it's worlds apart, it's so interesting because then I feel like, especially similar to you, I was also like almost 50-50. So I am able to really get into both cultures pretty deep. And I love that I have this access because I think that it informs the way we view the world, and we have a better understanding of how the world operates. Because again, there's no country that's perfect.
Right.
So every country, because I get the question, I'm sure you get it all the time. Like they're like, what do you prefer? What's your favorite country? Is it America or Taiwan? Right?
Yeah.
And I am always like, honestly, there's great things about both, and I will name them, but like none of them are perfect. But what for me and my younger sister, both of us, I think we want to bring the best of a culture and keep that to pass on to the next generation. Right? There's certain things about the Asian culture that's great, but there's certain things we should probably let go.
Yeah.
There's certain things about South African culture or Western culture that's amazing. There's certain things we should let go. And I want, that's my perspective, that we can become global citizens. Yeah. So I don't know if do you feel the same?
That's what makes us different than the foreigners coming to Taiwan learning Chinese.
Right.
And I think that's a part where if you're a local Taiwanese person, you can feel that out.
Yeah.
Like the way your accent is, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But also your customs and stuff, your behavior.
Yes.
Yeah, because like it starts from things like using chopsticks.
Yep.
Or like table manners.
Yes.
These types of things.
Yeah. Small things.
Yeah. And you can see the little details that are built or we're wired differently, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah, because understanding language is one thing, but again, culture is another thing.
Yeah.
And you don't just learn culture, you know? Like I could go to Japan and be like, itadakimasu, but I don't know what it means. Like people just say it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but to actually understand that, you know, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
And it takes years to actually master that type of thing, to understand.
Do you feel like Taiwanese society has changed over time in terms of the way they view, let's say, mixed race like us? Because I grew up here. I know that it was something, you know, but again, like I mentioned earlier, culturally, things are changing. It's becoming more and more common. So do you feel like what it used to be, or what it used to mean to be a mixed race kid versus what it is now is different?
I think I don't really see a big difference in this, actually. Okay. But I think there's more mixed kids. Yeah. So that's already like you see more of it.
Yeah.
So that's already a good sign.
Yeah.
Because there's more people like us populating, you know?
I know. We're spreading.
Not in a bad way.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's good to have diversity in a place because people are more exposed to seeing different faces, more accepting to that. Yes. And that's something that, like, because we have difficulties finding people to accept us for who we are and our backgrounds. And the thing
that
is,
can get us.
Yeah.
I think like any mixed people that get together, you're like, I get you. You know, you don't have to tell me a lot about your background, but I get you. Because like growing up with two different cultures, two different family groups, like you understand.
I feel a lost lamb. I can see a lost lamb. Exactly. I've seen half people who are just more lenient on one side.
Right.
Yeah. I see a lot of those, like, this person looks white, but just Taiwanese. Yeah. Like, once they start speaking, it's like, just, like, whoa. Yeah, you're local. Yeah. But now that there's more people who are mixed race, I hope, like, now they're really young.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think it also goes back to, like, the tradition, like, for example, when my parents got married, it wasn't like my grandmother, ama, she thought that my mom was a Russian spy.
Wow.
Yeah, because you don't see people blonde hair and blue eyes. True. So that's your first, like, impression. Yeah, you think
you only go off of what you know.
Yeah. A Russian spy. Yeah. Like trying to marry my son here in Pingdong, you know.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, so you have to, that's the part, like that's the older ideas that people have. I mean, now with media, you can see a lot more, you understand more.
Yes.
But like, we've come a long way.
Oh, for sure.
We've come a really long way. And it's hard to like accept, like let's say marrying Vietnamese or Philippines, like anywhere outside of Taiwan. And it must be even harder when it comes to like different color as well, like white, black, or like Indian, whatever. Yeah. And I think I mean, hopefully we can see a lot more of these types of people around. But I think mixed kids are kind of like the human brain. There's still a lot to be studied.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of unknown and
Yes.
uncertainty. And because mixed kids go through a lot themselves as
Yep.
well.
Yep.
But yeah, I think in Taiwan, most people still see mixed kids as foreigners, which is
Yeah.
okay because there's not many.
Right.
And it's easier to put them in that category.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, but hopefully after this video, maybe they will understand that there's actually a little like population of mixed kids here
Yeah.
in Taiwan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with the same, with our video, when we did it on your channel, we basically was touching on this topic, right? That sometimes we do want to be seen as Taiwanese too, because that is a part of who we are, even though it's not as obvious. But I know, if I look through the comments of people commenting, they were also like,
They'll be like, yeah, welcome to
yeah, you're a part of
Taiwan."
us. You're like, so I think, this is
Yeah.
something, it's just things that the more we get educated, the more we grow, the more we are exposed, then it becomes more familiar, right?
Yes.
If you're only seeing this person in this context, then you're like, of course, if I see another person similar to you, that's the only thing I'm going to know you for. So, hopefully more of these conversations can take place.
Yeah.
And as the next generation and few generations down the line grow up with mixed families and things like that, I hope, we bring some insights to these kids to let them know that you are not alone, right? We've been through there, and even there are few before us too. Maybe not as many, but like there's people before us that have been through this identity thing. And but it's amazing. I know we have pros and cons,
There are
that
pros
you
and
grow
cons.
you grow up with, but it's an opportunity for us to really find ourselves. And then I feel like we have then the responsibility to share about the other side of the culture, right? To let people know it's not that scary, because a lot of times we're just scared of things that we don't know.
That is true, yeah.
But, hopefully through these conversations, through things like this, we can get more familiar. And
make sure to check out the video that we did on my channel.
Yes.
Because I think we also talk a little bit about the issue.
yeah, can you tell us again where to find your channel?
So my
what it's
channel, you
called?
could type Christina Taiwan or Christina 靠右边走. And we have an interview on, since you are half Taiwanese, half South African.
Yep.
So if you find anything like that, that's us.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
So be sure to check out Christina's stuff. We're very grateful that we got to have her here. And we also did another episode earlier talking about her whole YouTube side of things. And so it was really great to have you for these
Thank you.
episodes. We really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us.
Thank you. I feel like I spoke a lot of personal things. Usually I don't do this on my channel.
Yeah.
So it's also great that I have the chance to speak more about how I truly feel about things.
Yeah.
And also because I heard it's a podcast.
Yeah.
So it gives me less pressure.
Yeah. You did great.
Yeah.
Yeah. You put on your
I put on my
side
E
and-
today. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. But I think I said a lot of negative things. So if I was to add, it's a lot of mostly pros on being half. And I think, the best part is that you're automatically born into two cultures.
yes.
So you automatically get the free education.
Yeah.
And now that, let's say I want to learn Japanese, which I am, and I look at how much I have to spend to learn this stuff,
Yes.
it's a lot of money.
I feel like the Matrix, how like when they want to learn a skill, they just insert the disc and then they now you know how to
That's
fight.
basically us.
We had English and Mandarin
Yeah.
just like boop, boop, and we learn it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm super grateful for
Yeah.
the opportunity that we have, and it's a privilege. Anyway,
Yes.
we're so grateful for you to join us again. Thank you for the conversation and
having
being
me.
vulnerable and sharing your thoughts. And we hope to see you guys next time.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye.